Okay, you'll just have to wait a few minutes.
Oh, welcome, Ahuva. We're starting in a couple of minutes. Hello, Harold. Long time no see.
Hi. There you are. How's Icho doing?
Who?
Icho, your brother-in-law.
Good. You met his best friend today from Brazil.
Oh, that's the guy?
Oh, you see his face?
Yeah, never.
Yeah.
Ahuva Goldstein is joining us tonight.
Oh,
Yes.
very nice. Hi, Ahuva.
Ahuva, why don't you show yourself? You have to unmute yourself. Did she unmute herself?
No, she's still muted.
Okay. Oh, hi, Officer.
Hi, goedemiddag, goedemiddag.
Hello, good well.
Hi, good boy.
Goedendag.
Hi, Walter.
Shavua Tov.
Wat tof. Wat tof. Yeah.
Get closer, dear. Harold,
Yes,
how are you? Shavua Tov.
I'm good. Good.
What's going on?
Not much. Same old. All good.
Yeah.
How was
Okay.
Shul?
How was Shul? Not good. You missed. I gave Kiddush. Come, I had some good things for you, but I guess.
I missed out. Missed out.
How was it by you? Okay.
Yeah, Sydney gave Kiddush today.
Oh, nice. What was that case?
In honor of Ezra. because
Yeah, I was
he's-
gonna say in honor of Ezra, saving Ellie.
Nice.
Cold. Except the Baal Simcha, Ellie wasn't in shul. I don't know what happened to him.
Was it? That's hysterical.
Oh, David.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Senor David, you are muted. You are muted. You have to unmute.
He doesn't hear you.
Does that?
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Oh, hello.
Welcome,
Shavua
David.
Tov.
Welcome. Okay, at least one
Welcome
more
to-
guy. It's all
I
women.
just heard
now.
about it. I didn't know about this year.
I'm the recruiter.
How are you doing, partner?
Hi, Faggy, how's Ellie?
Okay, he just has a little cold and a cough, but I didn't want him. to
Yeah, there's a
expose
lot
any-
of that going around, a lot.
So I didn't want him to expose
Yep.
anybody else.
It's better.
Thank
We
you.
missed the shul.
What's over here? Oh,
What?
I like this one.
Ellen, you're recruiting everybody?
I just-
Is that what's happening?
Why not?
What?
Of course, it's a great thing.
Ooh, we have a look.
Yeah,
So
they,
nice for you to share.
I want to share the
they're
wisdom.
publishing in the shul.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Ahuva and
This
David.
class
Goldstein
should be, this
Hi.
class should be used.
Welcome.
Hi, Ahuva. Hi, David. Welcome to our group.
Thank you.
Okay.
I didn't know
It's
anything about
growing
it
by
till
leaps and bounds.
today.
What was that?
I didn't know anything about this year.
Yeah. Anyways, we started, thank God, it was Sefer Yoshua. We finished Yoshua, Shoftim, Shmuel Aleph. We're almost finished Shmuel Bet. But you're right in the middle of a very important sugya in Shmuel Bet. And Mirz Hashem will be starting Malachim soon. So
Wow.
wonderful to have you.
So where are we right now?
Perek Chav. Perek Chav. We finished last week. Yeah. Last week was David HaMelech is being brought back to Shalayim, and we saw how Shimi Ben Gera reconciled with him, and Barzillai Giladi, and Mephibosheth, and he appoints Amasa as the chief of staff. And that's gonna come home to roost in this week's parak. Just when David HaMelech thought that he was out of the woods regarding rebellion, right? He's just had to face the rebellion of his son Avshalom, which led to Avshalom's death. And now David HaMelech is coming back to Shalayim. But remember, last week we finished the parak with the 10 tribes of Israel seem to have a taina, again, a complaint against Shevet Yehuda, that they think that, again, David HaMelech is showing favorites to his tribe, Judah. There seems to be some, perhaps maybe unwillingness for the 10 tribes to come back under David HaMelech. And it looks like politically, somebody saw that this was an opportunity, and he jumped into the fray.
What is the title of the 10 tribes that he showed favoritism? What way did he show favoritism?
Remember, the tribe of Yehuda was involved in transferring David across the Jordan. So that seemed to suggest to the other tribes that David is favoring his own Shevet. Okay. And we see what goes on. Visham nikra ish blial. There is, now the word nikra here is with an aleph, which is like vayikra, like somebody calls, like vayikra el Moshe. The way the third book of the Sefer Torah starts, vayikra with an aleph. So this word also looks like that same, but the Metzudas Sion says it's a loshen mikre, a happenstance. Rashi says miloshen zimun, that this was also somebody is preparing. Ish blial, an evil person. What's the word blial? Beli all. All is like all malchut shamayim, like a yoke. Beli all, somebody who's nobody's in charge of him. He's a wild man. Ushmo Sheva ben Bichri ish Yemini. Sheva ben Bichri from the tribe of Binyamin. Vayitka b'shofar, and he blows a shofar. This is like as a call to other rebellious Jews. Or some will say that as a simon that he wants to rule as king. Like we saw by Shaul and Shmuel Aleph, that they blew shofar when they coronated Shaul. Vayomer, and he told the other 10 tribes, Ein lanu chelik b'David. We don't have any chelik with David HaMelech, v'no ben Ishai. He called him in a derogatory way, Ben Ishai, not even mentioning his first name. We don't have a nachla with him. And then Ish lo ohalav Yisrael. Yisrael should go back to their tents. We'll see the play on words of ohalav. So it's not coincident that Sheva ben Bichri comes from Shevet Binyamin. Remember, Shevet Binyamin, Shaul was from Shevet Binyamin. And there still seems to be traces of hatred against David because David took the kingship away from Shaul, who was from their tribe. And when he said, send them back to their tents, he meant leave David. David is going to be only with Yehuda, and Yisrael will be without a melech, or he would be the melech. Now, when we were introduced to Avshalom in Perek Yud Ches, there it also said, Vayikarei Avshalom lifnei avdei David. It used the same language, Kuf Reish Aleph. That it was a mikra that Avshalom was there and got killed there. Hashgacha. This is a Kadosh Baruch Hu, fear Tavel, that he placed certain people at a certain location. And really, it's a Lashon Kriya that HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls them to this place, whether it's Avshalom to his place of death or Shevet ben Bichri. In fact, Shevet ben Bichri didn't even know that he was a pawn maybe in the play. This is the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted him to be there. And every mikra, this is from Rav Schwab. Rav Schwab points out to us that everything that we think is just mikra is not mikra. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKol biyad Hashem. Now, this when he called him David, right? He used the double language. Ein lanu chelik b'David, and we don't have a chelik in Ben Yishai. So some say that it's just he did it for emphasis, but Rav Yitzchak Zev Alevi, the Grizz, the Chaim Brisker, the Brisker Rav, the son of Rav Chaim Brisker, has Chidushim on Torah, Shmuel Bed, that when Shmuel was sent to find a king, first he was told, go and find him, you'll find him in the house of Ben Yishai. Right? There were 7 sons, and then David, and so basically Shevet ben Bichri is pointing out, we don't want any of the choices that Shmuel did. Not with the fact that he was told to go to the house of Ben Yishai, and because Yishai, the Gemara in Shabbos says that Yishai was one of the few people who died without sin. He died because of the sins of the Nochash, HaKadmoini. And therefore, Yishai had tremendous milas, which was one reason why Melech Yisrael came from the house of Yishai. And many times we say Ben Yishai, like in L'Chadodi, because certainly David had milas from his own sake, but it's also he came from an important family. So Shevet ben Bichri says, we don't want any of him. We don't want a chelik in Ben Yishai. We don't want a chelik in David either. Now, we learned last week a pasuk in Koheles, Es hakol asa yafeh bi'ito. Everything is done in its appropriate time. That really, remember we talked about the Lashon Hara that David may have accepted from Siva, the Eved of Mepiboshet, and Mida Keneged Mida, just like David HaMelech split the Nachla of Mepiboshet and gave half to Siva and half to Mepiboshet, so too there will be a split in the children of David after Shlomo HaMelech by Rechavam HaMelech, the son of Shlomo. There's going to be a split. 10 tribes are going to go and follow Yeravam ben Nevat, and only 2 tribes will stay Rechavam. And says the Targum Koheles, this parak that we're going to learn tonight is another rebellion by Shevet ben Bichri. And really, it was by rights, Shevet Bichri would have been successful. He would have been the king of the 10 tribes, and David would have stayed just with Yehuda. But, says the Medrash, v'nisake v'adava, it was delayed. And until Yeravam put up agolos, he put up idols of Avodah Zarah. So that's why the Shvatim eventually were nigla many years before Nebuchadnezzar came to take away Yehuda. And the Zohar in Parshas Truma says, Lo golu Yisrael me'artzam ad shekafru b'kutribrichu u'v'malchusa debeis David. That when they said, Ein lanu chelik b'David, v'lo nachla lanu ben Yishai, ish lo ohalav Yisrael, What does it mean? My ishla ohalav? Aser de akum shaya begavai hainu le Elohav. It means they went to their avodah zarah. There's a play on words. The word ohalav can be read Elohav. That there's already, we already see a spark of the exile of the 10 Shvatim, that they had a special nati after avodah zarah by this sentence that Sheva ben Bichri uttered, ohalav, which refers to Elohav. That's going to later on be put in actuality in the time of Yeravim ben Nevat. So this rebellion of Sheva ben Bichri is not just a rebellion against Malchus Beis David, but it's a merid against Hashem. It begins to sow the sources that Yeravim ben Nevat will, which we will see later on in Malachim. Pasuk Beis. Vayal kol ish Yisrael machrei David achrei Sheva ben Bichri, and many of the tribes follow him. And the Meforshim, the Kilas Yaakov say, even Shimi ben Gera and his 1,000 Binyamites who came initially, it was not Belev Shalom, he also followed Sheva ben Bichri. However, Ish Yehuda Davku b'Malka min Hayarden v'Yerushalayim. His tribesmen from the tribe of Yehuda, to protect him, stay with him until they go to Yerushalayim. Now, pretty strange. The Klal Yisrael has just been through the rebellion of Avshalom, and they saw how that ended. Avshalom is hung on a tree. He died in a very strange way. How now that immediately after this, that they're going to go again and rebel against David HaMelech again? Weren't they concerned that the same thing's going to happen? So some portion, the EAM wants to say that this is still part of the oynish of David HaMelech regarding Chet Basheva. That even though he's now being returned as Melech, there's still people who are not masking that he should be Melech. And there is hatred between the other tribes of Israel and Shevet Yehuda. And there's already a yesod that's going to lead to the divide at the time of Yeravim ben Nevat. Hate blinds reason and rationality, and this hatred is that we're going to start reading about in our parsha of the week, when the brothers start having hatred against Yosef, is oftentimes our downfall. Pasuk Gimel. Vayavod David el Beito Yerushalayim. David comes to Yerushalayim. What is the first thing that David does when he comes back as king? Vayikach HaMelech et eser nashim pilagshim asher hiniach lishmor habayit. He had 10 concubines that he had left when he had escaped out of Yerushalayim. And then we were taught that Avshalom had relations with them. One shot is he didn't have relations with them, but the basic shot is he did. But he placed them now in a special guarded house and provided support. But va'alehem lo ba. But he did not have relations again with these pilagshim. We'll see why. V'tiyena tzuros ad yom mutan almanut chayut. They were alive. They were lebedika widows, alive widows, like agunot. They couldn't get married, and David would not have relations with them. They were tied up, and they were watched that nobody else should have relations with them, because any wife of a king or any person that the king had relations with is usher for a hedyot. So even as the Pilag Melech, nobody else would be able to get married to them. But he provided mazonos for them. But since Avshalom had relations with them, he was also a hedyot. He was also not a king, and therefore he's not allowed to go and live with them again. Now, let's learn Yerushalmi, Sanhedrin, Daf Beis, and Daf Gimel. And there's a machlokes. Was David permitted to live with these pilagshim or not? It says, Ein noisi lo manusa v'lo gerushoso shel melech. Nobody's allowed to marry the widow of a king or a divorcee of a king. Al Shem, the Gemara learns it from this pasuk. Vatienet suros ad yom musan. They were tied up until their death. Afilu lachar mitzvos David yiyu asuros. It means even after David died and David is not alive, they remain prohibited. Lebedike almonas. Says Rav Yochanan, Melamed shaya David mekalasan mekashton umachnisan lefanav b'choyom. David would dress them up, put cosmetics on them, and bring them in front of him every day. V'omer liyitzro hara tavosa davra asulacha. He would tempt his yitzro hara. Chayecha shani mativecha davra mutulacha. That I'm holding myself back, even I'm permitted to live with them. The korban, but I'm doing this to teach my Yetzer Hara to stay away. He's trying to do tshuva for the mice of Bathsheba. Says the korban ha'eda, the Perush on Yerushalmi, like Rashi on the Yerushalmi, Shalom Esru al David bevias Avshalom. The anusos hayu, Rav Shalom raped them. They didn't live willingly with Avshalom. We know, chas v'shalom, if a person's wife gets raped, he's allowed to live with them again, unless he's a Kohen. A Kohen cannot live with a halachic zona. A halachic zona is someone who had any kind of bia be'isser. So if an Eishes Ish is raped, it's a bia be'isser. So a Kohen cannot return and live with his wife that was raped, but a regular Yisrael can. And David is not a Kohen. So technically, since they didn't live with Avshalom willingly, he was technically allowed to live with them. But he didn't live with them to teach himself regarding his taiva to control it. However, that's Rabbi Yochanan's shita. Rabbanan de Kesarin Amrin Asuris Ma'amishaya. No, he disagrees. These women were prohibited to David. Because it's Tashmish Shedyot, because Avshalom was not a king, and if a non-king had relations with them, a melech cannot have makli hedyot nishtamish ben hedyot also melech lishtamish bo. A vessel that a regular private individual uses, a melech cannot use. Kli melech nishtamish ben hedyot eno din shi melech also lishtamish ben.
And so then how did he marry Bathsheba?
Wonderful, wonderful. So the Radak has a different girsa in the Yerushalmi. That Eina Melech Osir Lisha Amanos Hedyot. That so he had a different girsa but according to our girsa in the Yerushalmi, that the Kli Hedyot Shenishtamish Bo Hedyot Osir Melech, how did David marry Bathsheba, who was an Almon of Hedyot? So the EIM answers that the Zohar brings that Uriah had never lived with Bathsheba. I think we had discussed this when we went through the whole mice of Bathsheba. One of the shitot that said that David really never committed an Aveira there was because she was not an Eishes Ish fully, because he had never had relations with her. So based on that, she was not a Kli that was Mishtamish Bohedyot, exactly like Walter, as it's not a problem based on that.
So why was David HaMelech doing tshuva the rest of his life? And where we know that Shevi ben Bichra is also named of Bathsheba.
No, because so we learned back there, David, he didn't commit an Aveira of Eishes Ish, but he committed an Aveira. And we went through what those Aveiras were. They were not an Eishes Ish Aveira, which is a big difference, but he was doing the tshuva for all the other Aveiras that he did it without Sanhedrin. Remember, he sent Uriah without Sanhedrin. All the various answers we gave over there, what kind of chet did David do? According to remember we learned, the Abarbanel learned, the Farish David lived with an Eishes Ish, but he was the one Rishon that learned that way. All the other, Chazal and all the Rishonim learned that he was not an Eish, that either they gave a divorce. Remember, we went through all of this, that the soldiers of David HaMelech gave a divorce. Huh?
They get creases,
He
right?
gets krisus and all of that. So, but anyways, the Meforshim do deal with this, and they go. It's easier to learn that Uriah never had relations with her, and that way it wouldn't be a problem for otherwise it's a big problem according to our Yerushalmi. And by the way, so the first act that the Melech does is to tie up these wives. So the Malbim explains he wanted to show that Avshalom, remember, they anointed Avshalom. They chose Avshalom. But David wanted to show that he had a din of a Hediot and not of a Melech.
Right.
And therefore the wives are usher. Because if Avshalom had a din of a Melech, it wouldn't be usher for the Melech to live with them again. But he wanted to show clearly that Meir of Avshalom was as a Hediot, and he did not have the status of a king halachically.
Didn't we learn that that David came and said that he should be tested because he wanted to be called an of like Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov?
Go ahead.
And so now he's testing himself again. He's enticing himself, but he's trying to show that he has the yetzer to fight it.
So here he's successful. He was not successful then, and we learned Musar then that a person should not do that. But remember, one of the activities of tshuva is to put yourself in the same situation. You know, somebody who ate a cheeseburger at McDonald's, and he has to end up, as part of his tshuva, to be in front of a McDonald's and not go in. So David is trying to fulfill the dinim of tshuva, perhaps is the way you can answer what you're questioning. And okay.
Shalom was nimshach. Why we treat him as like an idiot?
Say that again.
According to the Malbim, the Avshalom was nimshach lemelech, and we treat him like an idiot. Why?
Because he was not nimshach with a Navi and not with Sanhedrin. It's not enough just nimshach. And a Navi has to command it. So that's in fact why David HaMelech acted like he did. He wanted to disabuse the people of the notion that Avshalom had the status of a king.
Yeah, but he was a Ben Melech. So
He
what?
was a Ben Melech, but he was not the Melech. We see later on, eventually they chose Shlomo to be Melech. Adoniah was also Ben Melech, but ended up not chosen as the Melech.
Yeah, but you also have the fact that he raped over the rape. The only thing that there's an issur on a rape is basically by a Kohen, because a Kohen has a different din. So now we're putting in a new status on a king that he also has a different din. So I'm not sure, you know.
Yeah, he has a different din. This thing that you're not a Kohen, a king is not allowed to. He had to marry someone who had never been married to somebody else before. Basically. We had Kohen Gadol has to marry a Basula, same thing. So we have these demons.
I don't know. I never saw din by okay.
In relation to what you said about Uriah, it's
Yes.
interesting because Uriah didn't go back to Bathsheba. I mean, David was trying to entice him to go back to Bathsheba, practically ordering him to do that, and he avoided going to see Bathsheba. So maybe that's a raya that he
didn't have relations with her.
That he didn't have, yeah.
Right. From the pshat of the psukim.
Yeah.
That protects the Zohar. Pasuk Daled. Vayobra Melech el Amosa. Remember that in order to knock Yoav down a peg, right? Yoav, the Sar Tzava of David, who killed Avshalom. So Amasa, who was Yoav's first cousin, was appointed chief of staff of the army by David. So David HaMelech tells Amasa, Hazekli et ish Yudah shloshes yamim. Go gather tribesmen of Yehuda for 3 days. V'ata po amod. And I want you, because you're going to need to chase after Sheva ben Bichri. And be careful to follow my orders 3 days.
So Ernie, he's appointing Amasa.
He had appointed him already.
In
Remember,
lieu, and he appointed him. So who's advising him? You know, isn't he concerned? You know, instead of directing at Yoav, I want this Amasa in your, you know, to take over. he's just ignoring that aspect. So it's only going to lead to trouble, because here someone has usurped Yoav's position, and he's not, without even addressing the situation with Yoav.
Right? David is going to be taught a lesson here. We'll see politically.
So, who's advising him?
Well, I think his gut was to demote Yoav because of the killing of Avshalom.
So we're assuming that David did dissuspect that Yoav did kill him, because we never ascertained that. I think Medrashim say that he suspected it.
Yes. Now the problem is Yoav again hears about this here, and he's going to be jealous.
Mm-hmm.
So Amasa goes to gather the tribesmen. But he delayed coming back. That he said he was supposed to come back in 3 days. He delayed. Now, why did he delay? Gemara in Sanhedrin Memtes, famous Gemara. Amsa achin v'rakin darash. The word ach and the word rak are many times used as a drasha. And Amsa darshan that way. So the Gemara there in Sanhedrin with Rashi, that when Amsa came to his tribesmen, they had just started a new Masechta, and he did not want to disturb their bittul. He didn't want to do bittul Torah. Now, what does this have to do with anything? Because the pasuk that says "Kol ish asher yamre et picha v'lo yishma et devarecha lakol asher titzavenu yumad rak chazak ve'ematz." This is a pasuk in Yoshua that he said, "Just be strong." And from here they darshan ein amor b'malchus d'chsiv rak chazak rak in miut and shim ba melech levatel divrei Torah and shaman lo. So we know that the melech, whatever melech commands, you have to listen to. Except if he commands to be mevatel Torah, then you don't listen to him because of this rock. Now, Amasha therefore delayed, not because he was a true moed b'malchus, but because he understood, he darshan this rock din, that for purposes of bittul Torah, I don't have to come back in 3 days. I can come back in 4 days, because he didn't want to disrupt the learning of Torah. So, Vayomer David el Avishai. There's another cousin, Avishai, who he doesn't know that Amsa has a very good reason why he delayed. Maybe he thinks Amasa is not loyal to him. What was Amasa's job before David? He was the chief of staff of Avshalom's army.
Yeah.
So David is losing faith in Amasa. So he tells to Avishai, listen, Sheva ben Bichri is doing evil to us like Avshalom did. Take my servants, or Dofach Rav, and chase after him. Pen matzalo arim tzurot v'tzileinu. He's going to find fortified cities and be able to hide himself from me. Now, you notice, Barbara, that he doesn't turn to Yoav. He turns to Avishai. He was still angry about, he must have known that he had something to do with Avshalom's death. That's how the Meforshim learn that why now he's choosing Avishai and not Yoav, who seems to be the obvious choice. However, Yoav and his retinue goes out as well. We already learned the Kresi and Plesi is the Sanhedrin. So they go out too. To chase after this rebel, Sheva ben Bichri. And they reach a place which has a big rock in Givon. It just so happened that Amasa is there as well. The Yoav chagur mido levusho. Yoav is wearing we say V'lavash HaKohen mido bad. The Kohen would wear something that was fit to him. And it's the only place in Tanakh that uses this word as well. The Yoav Chagur mido levusho. That the alav Chagur cherev mitzumenet al matnav b'taravu yatzav atipol. Normally a soldier, if you have an image of the Roman soldiers, right, they would wear their sword like on their thigh, like on their belt, but heading downwards. But Yoav moved it horizontally so that it would very easily slip out with a very simple movement, and it wouldn't be seen that he's making a move towards his sword. Now, first of all, the Malbim wants to say that this mido is special uniform that the head of the army would wear, that people knew he was the head. And we talked about how he wore this sword. Vayomer Yoav la'Amasa, Hashalom ata achi. Amasa is his first cousin. He says to him, is peace with you? Now, what did he mean here? So the Kehilas Yaakov said like this. He was concerned also that why didn't Amasa immediately go do his job and come back within 3 days? And maybe there isn't shalom between Amasa and them. And that's why I asked him, is there peace with you? Are you coming in peace or not? Amasa was not aware that the sword had slipped easily. Now, by the way, Yoav grabbed onto Amasa's beard with his right hand to kiss him. He didn't realize that his left hand had a cherev in it. Vayakeu balachomesh. And again, he stabbed him in the 5th rib on the right side where the liver and gallbladder are at. Vayishpoch me'av artza, and his intestines fell to the ground. V'lo didn't have to strike him again. Vayamod, he died immediately. V'Yoav Avishai achiv radaf achrei Sheva ben Bichri. And Yoav and Avishai, who is his brother, continued the chase after Sheva ben Bichri. So, how did Yoav kill Amasa? Is he a murderer? Boy, I mean, we've been learning for the last, 2 months, things that Yoav has been involved in. Each time, the Chazal see Yoav also as a righteous person. Yoav isn't just going to kill Amasa. He's not a Rotzeah. Now, this debate occurs in Masechta Sanhedrin Daf Mem Tes. Armalei Shlomo liYoav. Later on, Shlomo is going to write David HaMelech on his deathbed, tells Shlomo, don't let Yoav go to his grave peacefully. He gives Shlomo instructions what to do to Yoav. So in fact, over there it says, Armalei Shlomo liYoav, my time at Katlosei LaMoshe. Shlomo asked Yoav, why did you kill Amasa? Armalei Amasa Mord b'Malchus Avi. What do you mean Amasa was rebelling against David? Because Vayomer HaMelech el Amasa Zekli at the Ish Yudah Shloshes Yamim. You got to come back in 3 days. Vayelech Amasa Lazik Yitzurah Vayocher, and he delayed. So Armalei Shlomo Amsa Achin Verakin Darash. Yeah, but Amsa Darshan Achin Verakin. Like we went through the whole thing. Rak Chazak Ve'ematz, that if he's not a Moed b'Malchus, but Yoav thought he was a Moed b'Malchus. And that thought is how he killed him. Now, you still can't kill a Moed b'Malchus by yourself, right? We've already learned this. The Rambam says in Hilchos Malachim, Perak Halacha Gimel, Kol HaMoed b'Melech Yisrael, Yesh Melech Reshus Lahargo. Whoever rebels against the Jewish king, the king can kill him. The Rambam says, the king said you have to go to a certain place, the guy didn't go. or shelo yotza mebeso v'yotza chayv, or he told somebody, stay in your house, and he went out, chayv misa. V'mrotza lahargo yahareg. V'chein kol ha'mavazes hamelech, you embarrass the king, or macharfa, you curse him. Yesh lemelech reshus lahargo. But it's the melech. Everything is told in the melech. And here clearly David didn't want to kill him. He appointed Amos a Sar Tzava. And you need, the Tosfos says you need Psak Bezdin to kill a Moed b'Malchus. So there's a Tzarech Chiyun how Yoav killed Amasa. And why do you have to come on to this reason here that that he didn't listen to David come back 3 days? He was also, why didn't he say he was part of the rebellion of Avshalom? So there we could say David HaMelech was Moichelim already, because by appointing him Sar Tzava, he was Moichelim. But this is a Tzarech Chiyun regarding the action of Yoav killing without the Melech telling him to kill, and without Bezdin, according to the Pshat, that you need Bezdin. Yud Aleph, Ish Amar Alav Minare Yoav. So one of the soldiers with Yoav said, stood on top of the body of Amasa. Because he wanted to, he didn't want people to linger to look at the corpse. Follow Yoav. He is, the fact that Yoav killed him, he's not a Mored b'Malchus David, that he killed Amasa, because Amasa is Chayv Misa. He sort of is like PR guy. The Amasa is Gola Badam B'toch HaMesila. Amasa is rolling in blood in the road. Vayara ish ki amad kolam, and this person sees that the people are delaying. Vayasevet Amasa min HaMesila sadeh. So he moved the body over from the road into the field. Vayashlech alav beged, and covered it. Kasher ra'ah kol ha'ba'al avamad, because he saw people were delaying, and the chase of Sheva ben Bichri was being affected. Kasher hogam min HaMesila avar kol ish achrei Yoav lidof achrei Sheva ben Bichri. And this helped people to speed up the chase after Sheva ben Bichri. Now, some of the Meforshim ask, how come David didn't give a hesped on Amasa? If you remember, he gave a hesped when Avner was killed. Remember, Yoav killed Avner ben Ner, the chief of staff of Shaul HaMelech. And there, David HaMelech gave a whole hesped. So there, if you remember, Avner had done a lot to try to make peace between the Shvatim and David. And since Avner was killed by Yoav, David was in danger that the rest of Klal Yisrael will be upset with him. So he wanted to show that he had no hand in the death of Avner, that Yoav had done it by himself. But he didn't have this public need to make a hesped for Amasa publicly, because those that were with David were the tribes of Yehuda, and he didn't need to do that as like he did before.
I have a question. Was what's his name? I just lost my train of thought. Was Amos required to come back in 3 days? Should he have, regardless of whatever else was going on, the Melech told him to come back in 3 days?
No, because Ellen, we learned the drasha of Rak Chazak V'Matz, but if the Melech tells you to be Mavatal Torah, you don't listen to the Melech. So it's not considered Moed b'Malchus. So the story that we were told that he came to the yeshiva and they were learning and he didn't want to disturb their learning, that's not an act of Moed b'Malchus, because you're allowed to disobey the king if he tells you to stop learning. That's how the Gemara looks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we can see also, he's fearful of Yoav. He's concerned now in this rebellion of Sheva ben Bichri. He doesn't take any steps against Yoav either. He's quiet. And he doesn't remove him from his chief of staff position until his death. David dies and Yoav remains chief of staff. And the EIM says, it's very clear that, we said this before, that David politically saw that it was dangerous to take Yoav on at this time. Yudalit, Vayavor b'chol shivtei Yisrael, Avela ubeit Macha v'chol haberim. So Sheva ben Bichri, Rashi, Rabag, and the Radak which is David, they learn differently, but basically, he comes to the city of Avela, either some of the people that were traveling with him come with him. Some say that the Yoav and his people are chasing after him. These are the different pshatim, but he's now in a city, in a walled city, Avela. So Yoav and his army come and they lay siege to Avela. Bavela Beit HaMacha. Now, what is this Avela Beit HaMacha? So I explain it like Minnesota, St. Paul, right? It's two cities that are right next to each other. They're called by the same name. The Meforshim say they were smuchim zeh lazeh, v'chashuvim k'mokom echad. It's considered like one place. Vayishpechu solala el ha'ir, v'tamod bachel. Vayishpechu, they dug dirt, like when the Romans used to lay siege, not lay siege to Masada. They built a mountain so they could climb up into the mountain, and that's how they got on the top. They would do the same thing. If they came to a walled city, they would pile up dirt so they could climb up to the top of the mountain. But the chel is the inner wall. So they were piercing the outer wall, but they were blocked by the inner wall. Some say the chel was a moat, was digging and filled with water. And everybody with Yoav are trying to destroy the tall walls. Pasuk Tetzayin. Vatikra isha chachamat min ha'ir. A wise woman calls out from the city. Shimu imruna el Yoav. Kra vadheina vadabrailech. She calls out, I want to speak to Yoav. Who is this isha chachama? Serach bas Osher. She's 600 years old, about, or more. We're going to see the Yalkut Shimoni says that this Isha Chachama, Serach Bas Osher, are included in this, is part of the names of the 70 people who came down to Mitzrayim. They're also listed, she's also listed in some of the people who came into Eretz Yisrael. Well, right there is 200 years, right? Because they were in Eretz Mitzrayim for 210 years from the time that they came in, with Yaakov. And now there's another 400 years since David HaMelech. Okay. So they established their bona fides. The woman finds out this is Yoav. She's who she is. Do you hear my words? He says yes. Vatomer lemor. Daber yidabru barishon lemor. Sha'ol yishalu ba'avel v'chein heitam. There is a pasuk in Devarim that when Klal Yisrael come to do battle, they have to v'karasa eleh l'shalom. You have to do peace. You don't, even when you're fighting against the non-Jews, you have to try to do a peace treaty first. What do they have to say? And she wants, so Serach, the Isha Chachama, is saying, don't just come here thinking that we're all part of this rebellion. You have to find out, are we shalom with you or not? Now, people ask, well, this din of the karasei shalom is only when you fight against non-Jews. So the Iyayam says a kal v'chomer. If you're fighting against non-Jews, you have to start with peace. Certainly, if you're going to fight against your fellow Jews, you'd have to do the same thing. Now,
so you're not allowed to have like a preemptive strike?
You have Jewish armies have to first offer peace terms. They have to say you have to be under our domination. You're going to live according to our rules. They'll have terms, but they can't do a preemptive strike. Just suddenly descend on them and start fighting. Now, the Zechor LaAvraham we have a din, ein melech yochel limchol al kvodo. Right? If something was done bad against the king, he can't be moichel then. But that's either for the present or the future. Aval al ha'avar yuchal limchol. But he can forgive past lack of respect. That's how we explained last week Shimi ben Gera. How did he forgive Shimi ben Gera? A melech cannot be mochel on his covet. He can on something that happened into the past. He has a reshus to kill. That means he has a right not to kill. So that's why he had the right to be mochel Shimi ben Gera. So here as well, this woman is tining to Yoav. You are coming to kill the Mord ben Malchus Sheva ben Bichri, but let's say we in the city, we did in the past, we might have been Mord ben Malchus. But if we accept going forward to have covet for the king, then he doesn't have to kill us. Therefore, you have to ask us, Lechatchila, do we agree to follow after David and accept him as a king? And then, if we do, we can ask the king, are you moichel or not? If he's moichel, then you don't have to kill us. So there's a very smart woman. That's how the Chorla Avram wants to learn, was the Chochma. Then she says in Pasuk Yutes, Anochi shlume emunei Yisrael. We are people of emunah. Atam vakesh lamid ir ve'em b'Yisrael. You want to kill a city ve'em b'Yisrael? Lama tivala nachlas Hashem. Why would you swallow the nachla of Hashem? Now, this that we say ir ve'em, it means a big city that has a lot of suburbs around it that gets their economy from the big city. So we say ir ve'em, like Los Angeles is an ir ve'em. The Malbim learns interestingly, to destroy a city, there's usually two reasons. They rebelled against the king. They're worshiping Avodah Zarah. And there's a din of Ir Anidachas where you wipe out the whole city. So the woman says, Ani omer b'shem ha'ir, sibal hashchiti reinu, shilyat sibal hashchiti reinu. You have no reason to destroy our city. Number one, Anochi Shlumei Yisrael Shleimim Lamelech. We are one with David HaMelech. And Emunei Yisrael, we are Mamin B'Hashem. So you have no right to destroy our city. Now, who was Serach Bas Asher? Rashi brings that Ani Ishlamti Neman LeNeman Al Yadea Nigla Ron Shel Yosef LeMoshe. Means when Moshe Rabbeinu, when they left Mitzrayim, was looking around for Aron Shel Yosef, nobody was alive who remembered where they buried Yosef. Serach was alive. They buried him in the Nilus. They buried him in the Nile. So Moshe had to use Shem HaMefarish to bring it up, but Serach was the one who told Moshe where it was. Shalach Moshe likach Aron Shel Yosef lo yotzei miMitzrayim lo yochel limso oto. He couldn't find it. You remember when Serach was singing a song, it was too shocking to just tell Yaakov that Yosef is alive. So it was Serach who sang a song that very gently they informed Yaakov that he was alive. The Radak himself is how she could live so long. It's almost, as we say, over 600 years. So maybe he says it's a Gilgul Shalah. Maybe it's not her, but it's a Gilgul. We know the Zohar has the concept of Gilgul, that maybe a neshama goes into another person's neshama if during the life of that neshama didn't accomplish what it needed to accomplish. They talk about the millions of kids that were killed in the Holocaust, that there could be a Gilgul neshama, that maybe the only Kiddush Hashem was lacking on a previous neshama, so it was put into a Jewish child who was killed by Kiddush Hashem. I've heard those that talk about Gilgulim, that one of the ways they talk about it. So here the Radak himself mentions that maybe it's a Gilgul, because how could it be that she lived over 600 years? Okay. Yoav says, Chas v'sholom. Lo chen hadavar. We're not coming to kill you. Kiki ish mehar Ephraim Sheva ben Bichra shmo. We're looking for Sheva ben Bichra. Nasa yad b'melech b'David. He has raised his hand against Melech. Shnuo Solovado, all we want is him. Ve'elcha me'alei, and we'll leave. V'tomer Aishal Yoav, hinei rosho mushlach elecha ba'arachom. Here, we're going to throw you his head. And they cut off his head, they threw it to him, and Yoav left. And that's the proof that we know that you're not with him. Vatavo Aishal kol ha'am, pasuk chav beis, b'chachmata, vayichrutu et rosh Sheva b'bichri. And they cut Sheva b'bichri's head off. Vayishlicho Yoav, vayitka b'shofar, vayafutz me'ala'ir ish lo alav, everyone back home. The Yoav Shav Yishlayim Ela Melech. Now, this brings up very interesting halachic issues. It says in the Tosefta, and Rashi brings it here as well. The Gemara says, "Siya shel bnei adam she'armu lehem goyim shnu lanu echad mikem v'nargeyu v'im lav harei anu horgim es kulchem." A group of goyim come to a city and they say, "Give us one of you so we can kill him." That they don't mention who. Otherwise, we're going to kill all of you. Yahargu kulan, vayimosu lehem nefesh achas misrael. All of them have to be killed. They have to submit themselves to be killed. You're not allowed to turn any Jew in to the goyim to be killed. Aval im ichdu lahem kigon sheyichdu l'sheva ben bichri. But if goyim come to a city and they encircle it and they say we need Ploini ben Ploini, give him, otherwise we'll kill everybody, then you're allowed to give Ploini ben Ploini. However, even there, the Rishalmi brings a machlokes Reish Lakish Mav Yochanan. Reish Lakish v'hu shechayev misa k'sheva ben bichri. When an army comes and says we want Chaim Yankel, give us him, you're only allowed to give him to the goyim if that person is Chayiv Misa. If he's not Chayiv Misa, you're not allowed to give him. Rav Yochanan Amar, Afal Pi Sheinu Chayiv Misa b'Sheva ben Bichri, you're still allowed to give. How does the Shulchan Aruch in Yoredeya Paskin? There's a Shulchan Aruch that deals with this. Tznu lanu echad mikem v'nargenu, lo yitnu lehem echad mehem ela im ken yachdu. If group of goyim or whoever comes and say, give us one of you, you're not allowed to give one of you unless they specify and say a specific person. Tnulanu ploni. But v'yesh omrim, da'afilu b'chai gavna ein l'masro. That's Reish Lakish. Elim ken chayv misa k'sheva ben bichri. That you'd be allowed to give him up if he was a Chayiv Misa person. V'chein posek haramba. Ki yesh omrim zedu k'shidas Reish Lakish d'rak heichad Chayiv Misa muter l'mosro. There's another, now it's late. There's another Gemara in Yerushalmi. Can we finish that next time?
It's too long.
No, it's just a Midas Chasidis that there's a Gemara that tells a story of one of the Amoraim that gave somebody up. So, because they were miyach in the name of the person. So why is it Midas Chasidis? So the Taz answers there, you should not be the Rabbi Yossi ben, whoever the Tana was, he shouldn't have been doing it. It would have happened. One of the people would have done it, but he shouldn't have done it. This whole thing is used in hostage cases. And all of these, I remember once we heard a Dvar Torah about one of the things that happened in Eretz Yisrael, using this Gemara about Sheva ben Bichri. So it's a very important lesson about what are you allowed to do to save a city. Pasuk Chav Gimel v'Yoav kol hatzava Yisrael. Yoav. Now the Psukim give us again the officers of David. Yoav is the chief of staff. Uvnai ben Yehoda ala Kreisiv al place. Uvnai ben Yehoda is head of the Sanhedrin. Now we were given all of these before, remember? But since now David HaMelech reign is being redone, nothing has changed. It's being done exactly like it was before. Va'adoram alamas, he has a tax collector that he needs for his army. Some say the Yoshafat ben Achilud Maskir, he has a secretary. Why is this mentioned here? Because remember, Avshalom tried to steal the hearts of the people by saying that the king is not doing justice. So now they have a scribe who writes everything down. So there won't be any thought that justice is being done in the courts of David HaMelech. Ushva Soifer, the Tzadok Vev Yasser Kohanim. Tzadok Vev Yasser are still the Kohanim Gedolim. And later on, by the way, sometimes the word Kohen, here it's a real Kohen, who means children of Aaron. But in Perek Ches we said, Uvnei David Kohanim Hayu. They were just officers. So it's not B'Torah's Kahuna. And so the Malbim wants to say that after the rebellion of Avshalom, he didn't want his children to be involved anymore as officers, because so the final part of Gam Ira Haya'iri, Kohen LeDavid, Ira Ya'iri, most of the Meforshim say was David Melech's Rebbe. And he gave him advice, and all of the Trumas and Matnos Kuhuna, David HaMelech gave to Ira Ya'iri, who's the new officer that hadn't been mentioned before. Okay, so we have another rebellion, which seems to be has quelled. We think things are going to come back to normal in David HaMelech's rule. It's not so pashut. Another event will occur next week that will challenge us as well. Any questions, comments, Aros? Everybody, I wish everybody to have a good vach, and